Welcome everyone to today's webinar for the Massachusetts AITC. I am thrilled to have with us Dr. Anna Barnacka, who is the founder and CEO of MindMics. And MindMics is a Boston health technology company that's created a new way to measure heart health using signals from inside the ear. So this method, as Anna's going to talk about, is going to do things like turn everyday earbuds and hearing aids into accurate heart monitoring devices. And Dr. Barnacka holds 2 PhDs in physics and astronomy and completed a NASA Einstein Fellowship at Harvard. She combines this background in physics, sound science, and digital health to lead MindMics in developing these easy, non-invasive tools for personal heart monitoring. So we are so thrilled that you are here with us today, and folks can feel free to add questions to the chat, and I'll be monitoring that, and then we'll open it up for questions at the end as well. So Anna, I'll hand this over to you.
Thank you so much for the invitation, and thank you everyone for joining today's presentation, where we'll be actually presenting our new results as well. So very quickly about MindMics, we really moving into the next chapter of the human health using our biosensing platform that is based actually on the acoustic signals. So I will start the presentation by diving more into our novel technology that we called in-ear infrasonic humanography. I had actually chance to speak about this technology of one of the webinars, but today I will highlight new results that we recently published that are focusing on blood pressure. And then also I will give you more insights about what's coming next as well. So we will start with introduction to the in-ear infrasonic hemodynography. So when you think about what we are doing at MindMics, we're pioneering in-ear infrasonic hemodynography to accurately measure our health. We are not using the optical technology. So when you're thinking about most of the wearables today, they are using the optical light. So sometimes you can actually see the blinking light that is looking just below the, is monitoring blood flow just below the skin. That's not what we are doing. What we are using is the low frequency vibration of the human body. We're using the acoustic signals that we capture through the ear. So literally, instead of looking into putting invasive probes into someone's body, we can measure human health and have the central information about the central cardiovascular system in particular, using completely non-invasive devices. So we like to compare it to Star Trek technology's tricorder that was able to do everything without actually putting invasive probes. So if you can think about us as a tricorder, but actually there's quite a lot of science that goes beyond it. So we are not fictional, we are not fantasy, we actually deeply rooted in science. We've done a lot of clinical validation, and I will show you quite a lot of it today. So first of all, the principles of our technology is that we're using the sound waves. And for actually centuries, people have been trying to look at the different heart sounds, because we know that different organs create a different frequencies, different patterns across the body. And usually you can use the stethoscope to look at the lungs, to look at the different organs. What's different with what we're doing is, number one, we're looking into frequencies even below our hearing range, because still for this to use the stethoscope, you still have to hear the frequencies. So usually they are around 20 hertz and above. We're going way below our hearing range. And on top of that, we're using the ear. So in many ways, the ear itself acts as such a stethoscope. So actually the ear will integrate all of the signals inside the body, and it works as a transducer, which means like every speaker is a transducer, for example, or microphone. And our brain is using the ear canal literally as a microphone to pick up the vibrations from outside. But because it's a transducer, it also can work as a speaker. So it is actually working is as all of those vibrations from different organs traveling through the body and getting into the into the inner ear and the ear canal. The ear canal will translate that, transform those vibrations into the sound waves that then we can pick up using microphones that are sensitive enough. So in this way, we don't need to actually put the probe into someone's body. We can use the microphone in favorite devices like earbuds when we listen to music and capture those information. So it's not only the aspect of comfort, which is of course very important, that we can enable this technology into devices that people are using very broadly for other purposes, like listening to music, noise cancellation. But actually, there is a lot of reasons why we using the ear canal itself, because the ear canal does a lot of heavy lifting in turning the internal vibrations into the sound waves that we can actually pick up using the microphone. So we don't have such an effect. If you put the microphone somewhere else, a different part of the body, you would only hear the local sounds. The advantage of the ear canal is that it works as a integrator and a transducer, so we can actually hear not only what's happening just next to the ear canal, but actually what's happening deep inside our cardiovascular system. So why the ear? To continue, number one, there is a massive adoption of the in-ear wearables. So if we only think about the earbuds outsell smartwatches 2-to-1. They are cheaper. There is much more reason to use earbuds every single day because you want to listen to music, you are in the plane and it's noisy, you want to cancel noise. So there is a lot of reasons why people are using the earbuds. And that's quite important. Plus, also it's an expanding market, especially with the hearing aid with much lower prices. We just see very adoption that is going very rapidly, and the ear canal is absolutely biosignal goldmine because the ear canal is close to the brain, close to the heart, close to the lungs, all of the key organs, which is not the case when you think about the wrist. We don't have too many organs on our wrists, or none, except the skin. But the ear is just in the center of the action. So it provides us the gold mine of the biosignal. And it literally works as a natural sensor. So we can hear heartbeats and pressure waves inside. And that's something that we will elaborate quite a lot today, as we've been showing that we can actually take those pressure waves and predict from them both systolic and diastolic blood pressure. And that will be the focus of the study. But diving more into the usability, because you may ask, oh, but how often people are wearing earbuds, how much data we can get. So not only there is twice as many people having the earbuds than watches, but when we look actually at the adoption and actually how frequently people are wearing earbuds, so we also seeing a massive shift in terms of how often people wear earbuds every single day. So when we look at, this is a little bit of data provided by research done by Qualcomm. That is one of the major chip manufacturers. You will find them in majority of high-end earbuds. So they also look at the market to see how often people are wearing those technologies, those different wearables, and what are the patterns and how those patterns are changing from year to year. So when we compare 2022 to 2023, so in 2022, only 26% people said that they wearing their earbuds every single day. In 2023, that number already doubled to 58% of those people that own earbuds wearing them every single day. And those trends are only growing because, again, like at this point, everyone wants to have their earbuds and use them for a lot of different reasons. So that those metrics, when we think about the fact that people already use them at least once per day, we can get quite a lot of information on simultaneously about health. So how to enable our technology in the earbuds? So in the in-ear wearables, The big advantage is that we want to capture the acoustic waveforms. So for that, a lot of earbuds that already have a noise cancellation do have a microphone in the nozzle of the earbud for the noise cancellation algorithm. So we can actually repurpose the same microphone. And in this way, to enable the health monitoring, we don't need to use bulky optical sensors that drains battery. We can use those microphones that are already there. And yes, you can listen to music at the same time, because the frequency that we're capturing, the body sounds, are below our hearing range. And the reason for that is that our brain had to learn how to filter all of those body sounds out, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to function, because our body is extremely loud, and we will show you. I will show you a lot of examples of the signals that we're capturing in the ear. So it's a very loud place. Our body is, we are very loud, even though we may think about ourselves that we are quite quiet, but it's only because we don't hear ourselves. But we can actually pick it up using those microphones in the earbuds. And because the human body is, all of those frequencies are below 20 hertz, all of the music MP3 formats actually filter everything below 20 hertz. So all the music you can have at best quality simultaneously when we're capturing those low frequencies of the human body. And because we're using the microphones that are already embedded, again, we will not, our technology doesn't drain much battery. And another big advantage of using the sound waves will propagate from the central part of the cardiovascular system to the ear, irrespective of the skin tone. And we know this is one of the major limitations when it comes to optical technologies. And the level of accuracy and the medical grade insights is, we're still discovering it, and is what we have seen already is quite amazing. But it's we still feel that we just seeing the top of the iceberg of the possibilities, what the acoustic information from our body. So very quickly, what we have done so far before I jump into blood pressure. So far, first we were actually with this technology, when we started seeing that one of the loudest system in our body was actually the cardiovascular system. One of the first studies we've done was around atrial fibrillation. We wanted to see if this technology is accurate enough to measure the time between the heartbeats, to see actually arrhythmias like atrial fibrillation. We know that atrial fibrillation is one of the key factors, key risk factors towards stroke. And a lot of watches already have atrial fibrillation detection. It requires additional action from the user perspective. So you have to feel some symptoms, or you have to have the reason to actually put your fingers and take the ECG. With MindMice, you could have it continuously. So there is a whole group of patients, of people that, for example, they don't have any symptoms, so they wouldn't even think about take the measurements, but they also might have atrial fibrillation. And so this technology that doesn't require you to have symptoms, it can very passively monitor atrial fibrillation, could enable us to capture those patients way before, so they don't learn about atrial fibrillation when they have a stroke, because very often people learn about this about atrial fibrillation when it's actually a little bit too late, and it already has a devastating consequences on the health. So this is one paper that we published. The results we published in Nature Digital Medicine, where we were looking at the signals simultaneously from the ECG. So here is an example. The gray signal here is ECG for patient with atrial fibrillation. So you can actually see that those QRS peaks are randomly distributed. Sometimes they are next to each other. Sometimes there is a big gap between the heartbeats. And black line is actually raw signal from MindMice. This is from the ear, simultaneously recorded with ECG. And what you can notice immediately is that we can see those peaks those cardiac peaks very accurately. And indeed, we actually did the comparison, how well we can measure the time between the heartbeats from ECG and compare it to how well we can measure it from mind mics. And the correlation is at 0.99, which is extremely good correlation. And the time between the heartbeats is very important because based on that and different features, we can build on it. We can distinguish if we're looking at healthy rhythms or atrial fibrillation. So we developed machine learning algorithms, and we have shown that we can distinguish very well between the sinus and atrial fibrillation rhythms. And we have actually shown that we can distinguish it with at the same sensitivity and specificity than to ECG. But that's not the end of the story when you look at mind mics, because when you look at the ECG signals, so those gray signals, you will see that the amplitude is always the same. The timing is changing, but the amplitude is always the same. So ECG gives us a lot of information about, okay, there was a signal, and that metronome that is making heart to contract. But the ECG doesn't tell us actually what happened. We don't know how much blood was pushed, what was the pressure, are the valve actually functioning. So you can think about ECG as the information about the input to the heart, but doesn't tell us the story, what happened with each input. So the heart can, be telling heart, okay, contract. We can use the ECG to monitor that and think about everything is great because there is signal sent, there is input sent. But when you think about most of the cardiovascular diseases is about output, what heart did during that heartbeat. Is it able to contract? Are valve working properly? And when you start looking at those heartbeats, this black line, and each of those heartbeats with mind mics, you see that there is massive change from the amplitude and shape of the waveform. And it's not noise. This is actually, we can see in real time what atrial fibrillation is doing to the hemodynamics. So for example, when we look at the heartbeats, when there was a very short time between those ECG inputs to the heart to contract, it meant that there was very little time for the heart to fill with blood. So that's why when we're looking at those heartbeats just after this very short interbeat interval, we see very low amplitude because there was not much blood to be pushed by the heart. And actually, mind mics is telling us that we can see it. And the same when you see this very long time between the heartbeats, like for example here. So this time during this beat, the heart actually had plenty of time to fill with blood. So the next time heart contracted, it had to push a lot of blood. So actually with this technology, we not only can tell there's atrial fibrillation because those rhythms are so irregular, but we can actually see what's happening, how those arrhythmias are affecting the hemodynamics and the way how workings of the heart. And with that in mind, inspired by that, we entered into the next study that was looking at the hemodynamics. So first, we look at the individual patients because we wanted to actually understand what is the information about our heart that we could extract from those signals. So for that, we designed for study at Scripps Health, where we wanted to compare those heartbeats coming from the ear into gold medical standards, which is echocardiogram. So here is one example of the echocardiogram. Then also we were doing cardiac catheterization and ECG. Cardiac catheterization allowed us to actually see what was the blood pressure inside the cardiovascular system at the different points. So we were collecting waveforms from radial artery, brachial, and most interesting for us was actually aorta as well. So you could imagine how we wanted to understand, are we going, what mind mics will correlate to, whether it's signals from the echocardiogram when we're looking at the blood flow through the aorta, from the perspective of the stroke volume, blood velocity, or is it correlating to the blood pressure? So this is one of the patients that we've been looking at. So on top, you see the echocardiogram here. So this is the echocardiogram was done in the way that we're looking at the blood flow through the aorta. So those lines here indicate, okay, the aortic valve opened, and then you can see the increase the velocity of the blood and then here the valve closed. And below that, here, In red, it's simultaneously recorded mind mics in the ear. So we can actually see that each time aortic valve, at the time of the aortic valve opening, we see very quick increase in the acoustic signals as well. And then at the same time, when we would expect that from the echocardiogram, the valve is closing. So we see a lot of similarities to the blood flow within the aorta. But what was most interesting that we have done was when we started looking at comparison between the pressure waves, blood pressure in the aorta, those waveforms measured directly in the aorta, and then we simultaneously look at the mind mic. So here is example of the pressure wave recorded with the catheter in the aorta, and the red one was mind mics. So you can immediately see extremely high similarities between the signal we're capturing in the ear, the acoustic pressure that we measure with microphone, and the signal generated by the aorta. So this already gave us a lot of indication that, like literally in the time, in real time, we see aortic valve opening and the blood going through the aorta and then valve closing as well. So we've been showing with those studies, one of the first steps was we've been able to see valves functioning in real time. And interestingly, one of the first patients we had was patient with very severe aortic stenosis. And that was a very interesting case because in case when there is some issue with the hemodynamics or blood flow, the shape of the waveform is changing significantly. And that can be only observed when you put the catheter inside the aorta, because you have to be at the central part of the cardiovascular system, because otherwise, as the blood is traveling, the signal is changing and is getting modulated. So we're losing a lot of that information. But if you look directly into the aorta, we can, based on the waveform shape, we can actually tell a lot about what's happening with the cardiovascular system. So you can actually see when we're looking at this example, that was a patient with the severe aortic stenosis. So you see those triangular waveforms. When we're looking at all of those healthy individuals, whenever there was ECG signal, then whenever the valve was opening, we see rapid ejection phase. So the pressure is increasing very rapidly for healthy individuals. And here you can see very gradual, very steep, very gradual increase in pressure. And what's interesting, exactly the same changes we saw in mind mics as well. So this told us that we have very high sensitivity to the changes in the aorta itself, because the second milliseconds, the blood is moving out of aorta, that waveform shape is changing, is getting smoother as well. So we start losing the information about actual workings of the heart, but that's not lost with the earbud and the acoustic signals as well. So that was very exciting to see, because that told us that we have very high sensitivity with this technology to see those very small physiological changes that today we could only see with very invasive procedures. And interestingly, actually, that patient went for the valve replacement. So it's not on this slide, but we did publish that result, I think was with Jack. And we were showing how the waveform shape also changed after the valve replacement. And on top of that, we also been showing that we can detect heart murmurs, because one of the issues with the valve, non-functioning valve, is it will create those murmurs. And we actually were showing it that we can also detect that through the ear. And after the valve replacement, we were showing that murmur disappeared as well. So that's what we have done before. So now we will jump into what we have done recently with toward the blood pressure. We've been getting always a lot of questions about where the signal is coming from, and we've been arguing for the long time that it's coming from the aorta directly. It's not coming close to the ear canal. It's not coming from those vessels expanding close to the ear canal, but actually the aorta itself, based on how similar the signal were to signals in the aorta itself. But actually, we've done proper analysis, and we have shown that definitely that the signal is indeed coming from the aorta based on the timing. And I will show you how we've done a little bit of the results. Then also, we've been showing very high correlation with the aortic waveforms. But then what is really important is when you think about doctors and how we can use those data, very often like individuals don't know how to use the waveforms. Doctors also very rarely use the waveform shape itself for the diagnosis. But what we use every day, and everyone basically everyone knows how to interpret and systole and diastole blood pressure. So this is what where we focused on. And do the feasibility study, can we predict both systole and diastole blood pressure from those waveforms, because those are the measures that can help us manage hypertension, detect hypertension, help us with the medication and so on. And that's something that is of the great value. So I will show you how we come up to the conclusion that yes, actually we can predict those values pretty well. So first, a little bit about the design of our study. So for that feasibility study, we were not using the BP cuff because blood pressure cuff is great. There's a lot of advantages, but it only gives one value over a long period of time. And we wanted to really compare heartbeat to heartbeat to have those correlations, to have the gold standard measure. So this is where at Scripps, we designed our study when the person was wearing the earbuds, then was going under echocardiography, and then the patients were taken to the cath lab when the cardiac catheterization was performed. So they had the catheter in their cardiovascular system, and simultaneously they were wearing our earbuds. This is quite simplified. I will show you later actually how it look in the real life. It's quite complex procedure. I'm super proud of our team that we got very good quality signal despite complexity of the cath lab environment. And also we did spend a lot of time making sure that we can synchronize the data across catheter, ECG, and mind mics, because we wanted to answer the question from where the signal was actually coming from. So kudos to mind mics and Scripps Health team for pulling that such an amazing study. So then we choose a very diverse set of patients because we wanted to see how the signals in the ear look for different diseases as well. So we look at pulmonary hypertension, left ventricular dysfunction, mitral valve regurgitation, severe aortic stenosis. I have shown you actually example of the severe aortic stenosis. But most of the patients that we collected data from are patients that undergo diagnosis for coronary artery diseases. And we had about 24 patients in total. And for blood pressure, they said, okay, let's not try to predict blood pressure from those very extreme waveforms that are strongly modulated by the cardiovascular diseases. Let's look at something that would look like a typical person with hypertension or with older age, that people who actually need the blood pressure monitoring the most. So we decided to use only data from this group of coronary artery diseases. So we started with about 24 patients. This slide actually is one of my favorite slides when we're talking about what we've done here, because when you look at the comorbidities, those patients were not healthy. They had a lot of different additional diseases that, if you think about the optical technologies and the blood flow to the peripherals, it would impact the quality of signal. And that's usually what is a big constraint for the optical technologies, that you can get very great signals, very good quality signals if the person is healthy and blood perfusion is great, cardiac output is great. That was not the case. Those were not patients that are easy to work with. But for us, it was very important to work with that group of patients to take the most difficult setup and see what's the quality of the signal. And make sure that because those are the people that would need the blood pressure monitoring the most. So also when we look at the age range, is the average age was 67. So again, people that may benefit from the health monitoring the most, not just healthy individuals for whom we know, okay, the signal is great, but people who actually may need this monitoring. So we wanted to show for this group of people that mind-mike signal in the ear does not degrade with those different capabilities, and also doesn't degrade with age. So that was our sample. We started with 24, then we needed to have enough data, enough heartbeats. So we ended up with 18 patients for whom we have enough data to actually do the analysis. And when we do the cardiac catheterization, always the patient safety, patient health comes first. And sometimes we've been asking to get as much data as we could in the aorta, but of course the time that doctors could spend with the catheter in the aorta was really varied from the patient to patient. It's very dynamic environment. Sometimes we were able to get even a few minutes. Sometimes we were only able to get a few seconds. For this analysis, we wanted to have at least 90 heartbeats to be able to see how well we can predict blood pressure, systole and diastole for the given individual. So we ended up with 12 patients that had at least 90 heartbeats of the good quality with the catheter in the aorta and a good mind-mike signal. So in total, we end up with about more than 2,000 heartbeats. And then we started analyzing the data. So the first question, the big question that everybody was asking us and not believing us when we were saying that the signal is coming from the aorta, not from the arteries close to the ear. So the question was, what's the origin of the signal? So actually we have shown based on the, we look at the time of the opening of the aorta in the catheter data and mind-mike data. And what we have noticed across all of the patients we've been looking at, the average difference of between the aortic valve opening in the catheter and in the ear was about 1.6 millisecond with an error of about 12 milliseconds. So that's a really strong indication that it must came from aorta. Because if it came from carotid and somewhere close to the ear, we would expect to see a delay of 80 milliseconds or less. So taking into consideration the standard deviation of the measurement that we did, we could exclude that it's not coming close to the ear. And just to give you an idea, we also when the cardiologists were doing cardiac catheterization, we asked them to first do some data collection with the pressure in the radial artery and brachial. And that's what you can see in this panel here, where this green color here, that's the radial artery pressure. Then the pink one is the brachial, so you can see the significant delay between the blue one. Blue one is in the aorta. So actually, and if we had the ear signal as well, if we could have the catheter somewhere close to the ear, we would expect to see it also delayed and here. And when you look at mind-mike waveform, this is one patient. That one example, you see that it's exactly the same time that we see the signal in the ear that we see it in the aorta. And on top of that, the waveform shape is also very similar, highly correlated with the waveform shape in the aorta, because you can see it with those signals from radial and brachial. Even when the signal gets to brachial, it's not far away from the heart. The shape, the waveform shape is changing also very quickly. But just based on the measurement of the delay that we would expect, because with shape, we could still argue about the morphology, what we expect, but timing is quite evident that as an astrophysicist, arrow of time goes only one direction. So we expect that the signal in the ear would be delayed. and there is not much we can do about this within our space-time, and that's exactly what we've been primarily basing our conclusion, that the signals we're seeing is literally directly looking at the heart. You may ask about that we should see the delay because the sound waves also have a delay. That's true. It's the expected time delay from sound propagation between the heart and the ear would be in the range of microseconds. And what we're measuring here are milliseconds. So it's not measurable from the perspective of the sampling that we've been using. So basically, we can for this setup, we can consider that there is basically no delay observed between the aorta and the ear. So going back to the conclusion of Star Trek, this is as good as tricorder on the Star Trek, that without actually putting something invasive, we could look at those different diseases as well. So we already covered the cardiac catheterization, different signals across the cardiovascular system, how it looks in the ear. The other interesting thing that we've done is we also look at the signals above 20 hertz, because those are the signals that usually you would hear with a stethoscope. And what we're capturing usually it's S1 and S2 that correspond to the mitral valve closing and aortic valve closing. So this yellow part is the signal that also we capturing in the ear as well. So we literally have a stethoscope. Instead of putting a stethoscope on the heart, we also hear those sounds with the earbud. Okay, but that was just first we focused on the origin of the signal. So now we know that the signal is coming from the aorta, or is the best representation of the aorta. Based on the correlation we have established of about 95%, we can conclude that most of those signals is coming from the aorta. We discussed at the beginning that the ear is an integrator, so there can be always some additional signals, but based on the correlation, majority of those signals are coming from the aorta. And based on that conclusion, we wanted to go toward the next step of predicting systole and diastole blood pressure. And it's not enough just to look at the amplitude, because what we're measuring in the ear is in-ear acoustic pressure waveforms. As much as the waveform shape is preserved, the amplitude will vary with a lot of different factors, with the earbud feed, with the ear volume, with impedance, the body impedance. So there's a lot of aspects that will change the amplitude, but what we have shown is that we'll always get the same shape. And just to give you an idea, because what we're measuring in terms of, we do measure the pressure, it's acoustic pressure. When you look at the amplitude of those signals, usually it's about 10 to 20 pascals. This is tiny pressure. If you think about, if we wanted to convert the aortic pressure, that we pressure in the measuring the aorta, so usually it's in millimeters of mercury, like 120 millimeters of mercury would be about 100,000 pascals. So literally the difference in pressure in the aorta and the one that we measure, it's about 10,000 times. So this is still a marvel to think about sound, how much information the sound can propagate. But for us, the challenge was, okay, can we just, let's remove information about the amplitude and look at those waveforms that so well represent what's happening in the aorta and see if we can use the morphology to actually predict both systole and diastole blood pressure. So let's have a look how we approach that. So number one, we had those data from the catheter, from the aorta, and because we already concluded that waveforms are highly correlated, the signal is good representation of that. We selected patients and started to try to understand how the waveform shape is changing itself from when a person has lowest to highest pressure. So here's two examples where you superimposed the waveform shape, the heartbeat with the lowest pressure for that patient, which was about 115 millisieverts of mercury, and the highest pressure for this patient, that was about more than 140 millimeters of mercury. So you can start seeing that those waveforms show they are different. They start being shifted. The waveform morphology is changing. Below is another example with much bigger changes in pressure. So again, the blue is the lowest blood pressure for that person, and the red one is the highest blood pressure for the same person. And the difference was about 33 millimeters of mercury between them. So again, we start seeing that the waveform shape, it's dictated by the pressure as well. It's not only the amplitude that's going up, but the shape is changing as well. And we can also look at the different ways of representing the waveforms by looking at the rate of change with the first and second derivative, and start amplifying those differences as well. So for us, it was very important to look at the catheter data, because that was a gold standard to understand, instead of looking, trying 10,000 features, actually look directly and from the first principles, figure it out, what are the features in the waveform, how the morphology of the waveform is changing with the blood pressure. And this is quite important, because when you look at the changes, if you wanted to quantify in percentage, it would be only a few percent. So actually, all of the information is gone when the signal is traveling from the heart to the wrist. Like all of that would be one smooth blob that would most likely lose all of those tiny changes. But with mind mics, we can actually, all of that variation is preserved. So then what we did, first working from the first principles about how the physiology is, morphology is changing with the pressure across different patients, we engineered multiple features. And then for each patient, we wanted to predict systole and diastole blood pressure. So here is the results. And you can see that our predictions, first we done it on the catheter data, because that was gold standard. So that would tell us, is it even feasible? Just using morphology information, is it even feasible? And it was telling us that actually the values that we were getting, mean absolute error at the level of 2.7 millimeters of mercury, a standard deviation below 5 millimeters of mercury, Pearson correlation at the level of 0.96. So this is pretty good, with diastole similar values, and you can see very nice correlation. So the first part, doing it on the catheter data with removed amplitude, was telling us that yep, it's feasible. And then we move to mind mics data. Because of course they contain more noise, a lot of different aspects. But also when you look at the results of the analysis, we also getting very good Pearson correlation at above 90%. Which is very, very promising. Then also we look at the individual patients and wanted to see, can we, as the blood pressure is changing because of the respiration, or if there is a drop in the blood pressure, can we actually see that as well? Can we predict that? So here is just two examples when we're showing that the predictions. So the open cycles is the reference data, and the green one is actually prediction. So you can see that the prediction is following quite nicely the baseline, the reference, the data. The same is for the diastole, and this jump here is also nicely reproduced by the model. So very quickly, so basically what we have shown with this approach is that there is enough information based on the acoustic data to predict systole and diastole blood pressure for the individual patients. And it's a big, going back, the patients that we've been looking at had a lot of different issues that could impact the signal quality, but still we're able to, with mind mics acoustic signals, it was even for patients that have multiple comorbidities, those predictions were very good. And when you think about optical technologies, there's a lot of limitations when it comes to the peripheral blood flow, or losing this key information as the blood is traveling from the aorta to the peripherals. And there's a lot of reviews about this, so I will be not focusing on that. A lot of people did a lot of great job on this, and we will be focusing on mind mics. That what we have shown is that we can capture this very precise waveforms across different physiologies and the different diseases as well. Of course, every study comes with the limitations as well. So for us, the key limitation was that the sample size was constrained. It comes from the fact that it's very difficult to do cardiac catheterization. It was a feasibility study as well. So we acknowledge that it was also a prototype. It was not the nice earbud that we have now. It's truly wireless. There was a lot of cables involved. And the data collection was very challenging because it's even hard to point out on this picture where the patient is. There is a patient, there is this whole table, everything is moving. A lot of those cables come to mics as well, and it's extremely difficult environment, and still, even taking into consideration those limitations, the predictions look quite well. So there is a lot of next steps ahead of us. So first of all, number one, make the data collection system much simpler with much less cables. We also have already a lot of BP cuff data as well that we are evaluating. And now we need to collect a lot of data from hundreds of participants in terms of the cardiac catheterization, but also thousands of BP cuffs measurements as well. We already have a few hospitals that we are now working on the data collection protocols. We also, thanks to Mass AITC, we have a very nice sample of data with the BP cuff that we collected before, and those data set that we collected through the grant is just absolute gold mine. We're using it almost every day, and there is still a lot to do with that sample, and it's also in our pipeline toward helping us with the blood pressure as well. Our system is much easier now, doesn't have a lot of cables. We will be now collecting the data using our truly wireless earbuds and nice app. So it's much easier, but that's actually not, you don't have to wait for the blood pressure. I will now switching a little bit to our business model. We are already actually licensing our technology. We're providing our white label app and the cloud subscription APIs for metrics like heart rate, heart variability as well. And also we have some algorithms that can also go on the device. And we have also a few partnerships already. And one I wanted to highlight is Sincere, that is embedding MindMike's full technology into their product. They will be having beautiful earbuds with MindMike's technology inside, and also they will be using our white label system. And there's more to come as well. But this is where I would like to conclude my presentation. I think we still have enough time for questions.
Oh, thank you so much. I have several questions. I'll ask one of them and then open it up if others do before going back to mine. So one of the things that the question, and there might be multiple stages to this in terms of in your sort of early testing and then shifting to the wireless, how do you see these signals being affected by motion? So when someone's, yeah.
Yes, so it's a really interesting challenge because in our case, when you move, the cardiac signal is still there, but on top of that, we get a lot of different signals as well. So it's actually a topic of very intense research at BioMikes now to deploy different algorithms for different type of motion as well. to extract those divide those signals and extract them from each other, because ear is great as an integrator, but it adds the motion as well, blinking, everything that the body is doing. So when you are quite stationary, the cardiovascular is the loudest, but then when we start moving on top of the cardiac signal, we do have those additional signals as well. And we're working on whole set of different algorithms as well. So it's a whole pipeline that we have in terms of recognition of what kind of motion we are dealing with, and so on, and also adding motion sensors as well for those bigger motions.
Perfect. Does anyone else want to hop in with a question?
Hello, I have a quick question. So, in the earbud, does it need to block the ear canal completely, or if let's say if there's some small space when the person is moving, does it affect the measurement?
Great question. So actually, we have a lot of patents in which we are even talking about designing the specific leak. Our earbuds also, they have design leaks and so on. And also recently we were granted our patent on leak correction as well. So we do not require perfect fit. We can actually correct the signals for those different aspects, because actually the leak is designed very often into the earbuds itself, and you will have variation with the earbud fit as well. So that was another thing that we did spend a lot of time in terms of understanding how to correct for those, and we'll spend even more time in building very resilient systems.
I see. Thank you.
Hi, may I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for this talk. It was wonderful. My question is about the low frequency sound. So low frequency sound should transmit very well through the body and through all over the place. How come there's no influence of outside sounds? Did you have to do something to eliminate it?
So that's a great question. When you if you have very good feet, the body is dominating by a lot all of the external noise. If I put one earbud in and one outside, you will see that the background noise is extremely low. You would have to be close to something that would literally move you physically to create comparable biosignals. So to answer your question, very low interference from outside. So we actually don't have to do much about this because once you're in the ear canal, the dominating source of the infrasound is actually human body. Plus also, if you have a very snuggled feet, it will also help to block those a little bit higher frequencies as well. So it's a double win with a good earbud fit, because not only you help to capture of all of those infrasounds at the maximum amplitude. Actually, fully sealing the ear canal is giving us 40 dB boost. So it's about 1,000 times in the amplitude. So it's pretty nice, but it's really big. So even if you don't have the full seal, still we have a pretty good gain. And on top of that, it's blocking a lot of external noise on higher frequencies. There is not much to block on the low frequencies, but around 20 hertz and so on, this is where the noise is start coming from outside. And what you will see in the industry, including Apple and other companies, they spend a lot of time in designing very good fit, because you want to have the good fit also to have very stable music, to have a good noise cancellation. So the requirements of the earbuds and how those companies are designing them and the direction they're taking are also very well aligned with the requirements for our technology as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So I had one about sort of patterns of use. So I can see the use case of diagnostics, which you've covered a little bit here. And then you've alluded to this idea of sort of people just wearing these freely, and maybe you'd pick up on something that there was no symptoms for. So talk me through the use case where, what does it look like for somebody to be using these with their commercial off-the-shelf earbuds that they're using for fitness or as their, you know, Bluetooth speaker for their phone calls? What does that use case look like?
So actually, there is no one use case because each market segment has a little bit different use case, and to really deliver good products to someone that meets somebody needs and the lifestyle, you need to design product differently. That's why actually we are a B2B platform that we're working with companies that have a different market segments. So then they can specialize and provide those different use cases. Sincere, for example, looks in to deliver very broad health metrics for everyday use. So when you listen to music, when you go about your day, you can have those much more deeper insights about your health with AI agents, because I think this is where the AI is going to be also very powerful to translate that information. But better we know market segment, better we understand their need, better products we can deliver. So I would say that there is not one fits all. But we also hope to work with sleep bud companies that, you know, there's another use case, different metrics set and so on. And they are also, you can think about systems for older population as well. So it's I would say this is why as MindMikes, we didn't want to just create ourselves one product, because we'd have to limit ourselves so much in terms of this technology. So that's why our business model is B2B, and helping different partners to actually tailor their solutions, because there is a different use case for people with hypertension, different use case for searching or scanning for atrial fibrillation, depending on the age. Also, people will have different needs.
Right. And I have one other question as I'm putting up the slide for advertising the next webinar. Is I was thinking about the signal impacted by something like earwax. What is the, you know, these external factors, does that matter at all? The clarity of if there's blockage?
Actually, I should not encourage that, but it creates very good seal that helps with the earbud feed.
Interesting.
So it's interesting actually, and earwax actually we've seen very good signals. So it doesn't help.
Needed. Okay.
But I do not recommend that.
Yeah. I mean, no, that's interesting, very interesting to know. So I want to thank everybody for coming today. And then what you're seeing is the next webinar for December. And the title is, Can you walk me through it? Explainable SMS phishing detection using LLM-based agents. And so we really hope that you come to that. And again, thank you so much, Dr. Barnacka, for your talk today.
Thank you, everyone, and see you next time.